Good morning, everybody. Welcome to my video. I just woke up. I really wanted to share with you guys first thing in the morning. I wanted to talk about, insecurity and unworthiness and self-doubt. I feel like these are huge things that come up for all of us on this journey, and that is also one of the things that we all kind of try to hide, either from ourselves or others, or and I just wanted to kind of free flow about why this is for me, and maybe this will make sense for you guys and be relatable. um so I've always tried to hide my feelings of insecurity because I felt like they would make me seem weak and less than, and that people wouldn't love me if I was to be unsure of myself, if I was to be, it's just something where, especially, I don't know if this is true for women, but for men, it's seen as like you're supposed to be the one who knows. You're supposed to be the decisive guy. It's rather unattractive to show indecision, to show that you just aren't sure about yourself. So to come out and express that is basically not, it's like kind of social suicide. What we perceive as social suicide, we perceive it as weakness, right? That doesn't mean it is, or it's true, or it has anything behind it that is actually real, but it's a perception that's created. And now what happens, like when my self-doubt used to come up in my 20s, or my insecurity or unworthiness, man, I would just try to drink it down. Go find like a mate, like go find a girl that I could like temporarily kind of soothe myself with. Like if she likes me, then I'm worthy. I would just try to go make a bunch of money or something. I would try these, and I'm not saying this is the wrong way to go about it. This is a paradigm. This is a certain level of awareness. This is a certain approach. So I would try to go find externals to really soothe my internal feelings of just, I'm not good enough. I'm not worthy. I need something that validates my existence. Or I need to pretend I need to be something fake to validate my existence to others. This was a big theme of my 20s. And even younger, but mostly this is what I did in my 20s. And this leads you to certain conclusions and certain realizations. Whether you're conscious of it or not, you realize, holy shit, it's never gonna be enough. I am feeling anxious because I don't feel like I'm enough. And I'm depressed because I don't feel like I'm ever gonna be enough. And that was like the, what's that word? It's like existential crisis. That's the word. And this is what happens, I think, for a lot of young adults, maybe even older people, who they achieve everything, they get all the validation from others they have plenty, they get a certain amount of money that they thought would make them happy, or success, or that house, or that partner, you know what I mean? That perfect thing that their mind says will make them complete. They achieve that, and then they still feel empty. They still feel that void of incompleteness, of unworthiness, of lack, of insecurity, deep insecurity for me. And so I had this deep existential crisis, and that I think is part of what led to my awakening. Is I was, especially in like from 28 to 30, I was like, there has to be more. And I became really unmotivated. I just I literally quit working my high paying jobs, and I just started playing like freelance poker, just making enough to I'm still making good money, but not nearly like I was. I ended up leaving this relationship that I was in for many years that I thought would make me happy, and it just wasn't. And I knew it wasn't right for me for a long time, but I didn't have that. I was truthfully too scared and insecure and too afraid to be lonely, and thought that no one would ever love me again as hot as she was. You know what I mean? Those kind of things that are what insecure men think in their 20s. And so I reached this point where I just felt so misled, where I just felt so confused, like everyone has told me that these things will make me happy and they just haven't. And I didn't know what to do. I was so fucking lost. And this, I think, 28 to 30 was actually part of my dark night of the soul experience on a lesser level, much less intense level. And I didn't even know it. And I was preparing for a Kundalini awakening, and I didn't even know it. This is when I first started really getting into metaphysical stuff. You know, I was an atheist, but yet I was still opening my mind up. I was reading like Alan Watts. I actually was reading Eckhart Tolle. You know, and it wasn't really resonating at the same depth that it does now at all. I didn't really get it, but yet I found myself reading these books. I found myself exposing my intellect to newer spiritual concepts and ideas, and I was becoming more open to it because I was becoming so disenchanted. I was becoming so, what's that word where we're like realizing it's all an illusion, you know, whatever that word is. I like literally was seeing it for what it was. And then comes the awakening, right? Boom. And the darkness and the depth of the darkness is intense. And now we're facing all these parts of us. They're coming to the surface. We know now that we can't go out here and try to fill this insecurity and lack. We know how silly that is and how it's just never gonna work. Like, we know it now because we've lived it. And now we can live it again, but consciously. So even after an awakening, you might try it again like you did before your awakening, but as you're doing it, like before your awakening, you don't feel it as you're doing it, you feel it afterwards, and you're like, wait a minute, I just did all that and it didn't make me feel whole and complete for more than a fucking day, you know? Or maybe even less. But now as you're awakened, as you try to reach for those externals to mask your insecurity, to mask your inner beliefs and feelings of unworthiness, as you're doing it, you know it's silly and never gonna work. I think the word's disillusioned. Yes. The disillusionment of reaching for externals to mask that inner feeling of insecurity is in real time now. And so that leads you to like going inward. And that's the whole thing. Why is it that we're afraid to open ourselves up and show our feelings of insecurity and unworthiness and lack? That's been a big one for me. And you know, like a YouTube channel, I don't know, I think everyone has their own spirit. If you're on the spiritual path, spirit, your higher self, however you want to look at it, is going to put things in front of you on your journey that is going to trigger your unworthiness, your feelings of lack, your insecurity, because these things have to come up for you to fully arrive, for you to be of service to source. Because it's hard to be of a vessel of service, no matter what that means for you. It's hard to be a vessel of service for source when we have these huge shards of unworthiness or these huge shards of lack in our being, because that's going to limit our service. So like these things have to come up. Like, so spirit, source, your higher self, they're going to put certain scenarios, circumstances, events, people, places, things, etc. in place so that you have to feel these things inside of you, so that they're gonna come up. If you'll notice in your life since your awakening and even before, life repeatedly is triggering up your feelings of unworthiness and insecurity. And maybe in the past when they came up, you would soothe them with, you know, whatever it was, a drug, a person, and you know, money, anything out here. You would just try to soothe yourself. And like I said, that's not wrong. That's just one way of handling this. But now as you awaken and they come up, you realize that the soothing actually doesn't fix the issue. It doesn't heal you. It may temporarily give you a reprieve. And I maybe sometimes in the near recent past would do this with eating. But even that I let go of because I've seen the cycle of that. And so as you let go of all of your self-soothing mechanisms and you start being willing to face these feelings, you notice that they're not going anywhere until you heal them. These circumstances, these events in your life are not going to keep coming up. That you're not going to have your unworthiness and your insecurity stop being triggered, and you're not going to stop feeling them. Like Spirit's going to keep bringing them to you for you to see until you heal them. And I think a big part of healing them is not being afraid of them. Because when we're not afraid of them anymore, when we give them a voice instead of just denying them and pretending like they don't exist, we realize their innocence. You know, I was sitting with some major unworthiness and insecurity last night. And instead of going and getting a spiritual concept out to tell myself that I'm already whole and I'm already complete and I'm already, you know what I mean, all of these things that spirituality tells us, which are true, these are truths. Instead of doing that, because that can also be a way of spiritual bypassing too, I've noticed. And helping us to just, push the ball down the road for another day. Like, I don't want to feel these feelings hurt. They're uncomfortable. So I'm just going to go get this really nice spiritual book out that's going to tell me all these beautiful things about the truth of life. And in that way, this isn't bad, this isn't wrong, but it can be a little spiritual bypassing. Instead of that, last night, I just said, you know what? What is this unworthiness? Where does it come from? And I'm just going to sit with it. And I realized, instead of playing spiritual jujitsu and trying to reframe and recontextualize, which is very valuable and super an important skill, I guess we could say, to learn on the path, I just said, what is it? Are you okay? I'm sorry. I'm sorry you're hurting. I'm sorry you're feeling insecure, but I love you. You're so lovable. You're beautiful. And I let these voices come up. I let these insecure aspects come up, and I let them be with me in my presence, essentially. I didn't just say, go away, I don't want to feel you. And they brought up memories, of when something had happened to me that had caused me to feel very unworthy and insecure. And I sat with the memory and I said, I get that, and I told these parts of me, I'm not leaving you behind. You're coming with me. I think I heard this on an Andrew Martin energy transmission yesterday. It was so beautiful. He said, we take the aspects with us, but we leave the memories behind. We leave the memories behind that caused us so much pain, so much trauma, so much feelings of unworthiness and insecurity. As we heal, that memory might come up, and yes, we sit with it and we see it. And we love the aspects of us that were hurt by that. And we tell them, we're not leaving you. You're coming with. Just relax, basically. Just know that you're loved. And then we leave that memory. We let go of the memory. But it's not until we open to these aspects and we're not afraid to meet them with love and openness that we can let go of the thing that thing that's in our field, that thing that feeling of lack and unworthiness. So not being afraid of these feelings and knowing that they don't mean that we're less than, that we're not spiritually evolved, that we're not, whatever we tell ourselves when we feel unworthiness and lack and insecurity, and knowing that it's a huge thing in the collective right now and that a lot of people are going through this. And it's very rare to find somebody who is willing to open to their unworthiness and insecurity in a real way and to really be there with it. And I want this channel to be a space where you feel, a space where you feel safe about your unworthiness, because we're not going to heal these parts of us together if we're not feeling safe about them, if we're not feeling like you know, the ego thinks if we share unworthiness and insecurity, it literally thinks it's going to be obliterated. Because I think that that's what it's kind of learned. It's learned that it needs to pretend to be something that is like confident to be loved. I think the ego thinks that if it's insecure and unworthy, that it's not going to be loved. And what you'll notice is that's not the truth. And like I was getting back to my example that I kind of just blew by, this YouTube channel has really brought up all my insecurity and unworthiness, like on hyperdrive. Holy shit, you know? And it's been a beautiful process. I can see so clearly why Spirit has chosen this path for me and why I feel like it's kind of my destiny. And you'll start feeling when you feel into your destiny is always going to bring you to your edge. It's always going to bring you to your evolutionary edge where you're facing all of your inner darkness that's unresolved, meaning your inner unworthiness, your inner beliefs of lack and insecurity. And that's what this channel has done for me so beautifully. When you put yourself out there like this, I mean, it's really going to show you what you think of yourself. It's really going to show you how dependent you are on an external result for your own feelings of worthiness, right? And you know, I talked about this in a previous video of how that this channel has, especially earlier in this channel, when I was first starting this channel, guys, it was a major challenge. And I shared this with you guys about like how if I lost a subscriber or two, it would like really throw me off. And for so long, I was scared to share that on a video because I thought like, you know, the mind will tell you don't share that because then people are gonna think you're, you know, less than, you're insecure, that you're not good enough and stuff like that. But then when I shared it, you guys had such a response of, well, first of all, support and love, like always, but also I felt like you guys could relate to that in a deep way because it was honest and from the heart, you know? And that's what happens when we share what's honest and real. Other people are going through that same thing because it's all one, you know? So if you're experiencing it, others are experiencing it. And I just wanted to make a video about unworthiness and insecurity and that it's okay. It's okay. We're all going through it, you know? We don't have to hide these feelings anymore. That's not New Earth. That's the old way of living. That's the puritanical system. That's not who we are. That's not who we're becoming, and that's not the world we're creating together. We're creating a world where openness and love and trust and authenticity and uniqueness is at the center of it all. And, you know, I just wanted to share that let these parts up. Listen to them, feel them, nurture them, soothe them with your heart-centered energy instead of reaching for something out here to soothe them with. And if you have to do this, I know they can be overwhelming at times. If you have to do this, don't be hard on yourself for it. If you have to reach for that ice cream, that used to be mine, man. I would have so many vanilla milkshakes. I'd have a vanilla milkshake every day on this path for months, guys. If you have to reach for a cigarette, you know, no big deal. If you have to reach, if you're showing codependent patterns and you just can't help it, it's okay. Love yourself anyways. Love yourself anyways, even if the unworthiness and the insecurity is getting the best of you. Don't hate yourself for it. Don't beat yourself up for it. It's okay. It doesn't define you, you know? And as you like, if you're gonna smoke a cigarette, for example, or going to get a vanilla milkshake, say this out loud before you do it. This is the most loving thing I can do for my body right now. And then smoke the cigarette, drink the milkshake, or whatever it is for you, you know, whatever the thing is that you reach for. And you'll notice sometimes it is. I know early in my awakening for a fact that smoking a cigarette was the most loving thing I could do for myself because I was so fucking overwhelmed with trauma and pain and emotions that I didn't have the tools for, that, you know what, a cigarette gave me 5 minutes. 5 minutes I desperately needed. I knew, or a milkshake was the most loving thing I could do for myself when I had torrents and seismic like waves of kundalini energy rushing through me, and I needed something just to heavy as shit just to like settle everything down for a minute. Those were the most loving things I could do for myself. But you'll notice if you said this is the most loving thing I can do for my body right now, and you go to have that milkshake or that cigarette, at a certain point you'll realize, wait, this isn't. The most loving thing I can do for myself is I can love these aspects without reaching for a temporary soothing mechanism. Because you will be ready. You will have the tools. You will have enough love within. You will have enough space within to integrate that part of you. And you know when that is. And just know if you're watching a video like this, that's the path you're on. We're all on the path of integrating our unworthiness. We're all on the path of integrating our insecure aspects. It just takes time. It takes patience. It takes humility. It takes being humble. Because that's a big part of it too, is sharing these aspects, opening to these aspects. We have to be humble. And life will humble us. Your path is actually, your destiny and path is actually designed to humble you into service and surrendering into something greater. When we do that, when we surrender into something greater, we say, help, I need help. I was saying that out loud last night. I was saying, help me. Help me, the intelligence of life. Help me, my higher self. Help me with these feelings. Help me to know how to love this feeling of lack and unworthiness and insecurity within, so that I may serve you at a more expansive potential. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you can relate to it. More of just a free flowing. I just felt like, sometimes we get up, we just have to share. I just wanted you guys to know you're not alone with these feelings, and that we are healing these together, and that anyone watching this channel, if you've watched it, even if you haven't been watching it, just know that you've come a long way. You've come a long way. We have all come a very long way. I'll see you guys in the next video. Namaste.